Hey guys, it's Shannon from Audio Energy, and today we're going to be looking at part 2 of studio design. Let's get into it. Okay, so here we are. We're looking at studio design part 2. Last week we looked at part 1, and I'll just go over a couple of things quickly from part 1 because I think there was probably a bit too much information for everyone to handle there and absorb all at once. So to summarize, we looked at 4 different types of room. We looked at our standard room, and that's any kind of general room that you might record or do monitoring in. It has your 4 basic walls. Could be rectangle, could be square, whatever you're working with. The next type of room was your reflection-free zone. They can be slightly different shapes. They can have different models and things and different ways that you set up the absorptive material. But all in all, the goal of the reflection-free zone is to have absolutely or very, very minimal reflections at all. Okay? That would be including things like anechoic chambers and things like that. So, but that's an extreme case. A reflection-free zone is basically working at getting the sound as flat as possible. No reflections, very, very minimal reflection time, if any. Okay, they can have some problems of their own, but essentially speaking, they're a pretty good model. And these models are basically up to any person what they kind of favour when you study them. The next one, number 3, is our LEDE. That's a live end, dead end room design. And it basically means that where you're working and directly monitoring, you have a lot of heavy absorption over that area, floors, walls, ceilings, things like that. You might have carpeted floors. And then it moves into more of an open acoustic space at the back. And you might notice that some mastering studios will be set up this way. They'll be quite large. They'll have a lot of space behind the monitors and a lot of space behind the engineer as well. And so what that does is dull and dead the sound around the working area, okay, and then allow a bit more natural acoustics in the back of the room so they can sort of move around and have a listen to how everything's sounding. That's one that I actually prefer, all right? But when you're working with bedrooms and things, depending what you have on the floor and your floor type, I'm probably looking for this particular room that I'm doing here is our number 4, which is the hybrid. Okay, so that basically involves jagged walls and different shaped walls and things where the sound moves around and it breaks up a lot. So you're relying on wall design and it really affects the modes and things. And we can actually simulate that without having to rebuild walls and things. But I'll talk about that in a minute. Okay, so essentially what we're looking at is for this room, most likely a hybrid design. It's close to LEDE, I like it. And I'm going to just move this camera around now so you can kind of see the room. Now there's particular features of the room that you might not be able to see with this video, but I'll kind of explain it as I go. So here we go. Okay, so here's our open doorway and the camera's moving around. There's our walls as well. And maybe with that wall there, you can see up in the corner it's curved, okay? It's like a 45-degree curve and then moves into the rest of the wall where we have windows. Coming around, we have another set of windows, and then we have our mirrors and doors and things like that as well, okay? Whoop, and back to the front door. Here, back to me. I won't make you too dizzy. Okay, so we have mirrors and a cupboard, that's a built-in cupboard here. It's we have, you can hear that, we have like a wood material that it's been built from. Let's try and get this straightened up a bit. We've got our wood material, and these other walls are concrete. Okay, now they're really thick concrete. They're almost, well, 25 centimeters thick, so they're quite thick. It's an old house. It was built in the 1930s, and so they built the design for bomb shelters, essentially. And this thing, I think, could take quite a bit. So a few problems with this room that I'm going to have. And the first one is the mirrored doors. Well, they're going to go. I'm going to get rid of them. Okay, and I'm going to put some thick, heavy curtains along this wall. Because, I mean, we've got it's about 2.4 metre long cupboard space. It's open inside, so again, there's going to be more resonance. So I'll just get some heavy curtains and put some heavy curtains along there to try and absorb it. I can also put in some absorptive material inside the actual cupboard as well. Okay. The other problem is up here. I'll just tip that up. You can see up here that there's a space between the cupboard and the ceiling, and there's going to be problems with sound moving around in there as well. Now, some of it will break up once it's sort of hitting sharp corners and things like that, like we talked about with diffraction. Okay, it's where the sound's moving along the surface of something and then it hits a sharp edge and it starts to break up and cause problems, and can even get phase and things like that. But essentially the sound's breaking up. Okay, you're breaking up that wave. So having that sort of bay up there, I can actually put in some diffusive material along the walls, and it shouldn't really cause too much problem, except for the fact that this is made of wood and the floor is wood as well. And our floor down here, right down, you can see our wood floor there. It's an acoustic wood floor, sorry, and a hardwood floor. So the acoustics is going to allow a fair bit of noise to move in there, and if we're using low frequencies, that's going to when we do our low frequencies and stuff, it's going to be a lot of resonance in that floor, but there's a lot of space, so it should move out and about. But again, it's an issue I'm going to have to think about. Another issue is that curved wall, that 45-degree curved wall. Now, I have to decide whether I'm putting my monitoring station against this wall, or am I putting it over there with at the back of the windows. Okay. So if I'm putting it where partially it's going to be covered with windows, there'll be curtains, then I'll have to decide what kind of bass trap treatment I can put, or even high frequency treatment I can put in that corner. So all in all, it's a complicated room, even though it's a simple kind of standard room like that we were dealing with in scenario 1, our standard room. However, because of the materials in this room, it's going to really have to be considered the best way to deal with things. Again, concrete walls, wood floor, gyprock ceiling. So I've got 3 different types of surfaces in here that I'm going to actually have to think about. I'm going to have to test, do a lot of testing as well. But essentially, curtains along the windows, that's going to help somewhat. Some reflective, anti-reflective absorption in the back there as well. And that might be a little cheaper than having to treat this whole wall here. So if that's the way I'm going to go, I'm probably looking more at a reflection-free zone than I would be at a hybrid room, because the hybrid room has the jagged wall designs where it's breaking up those frequencies more. And you can actually simulate something like that by having a flat wall, build your absorption, and making it angled off the wall at a certain degree. So if your wall's this straight, you can angle your diffusion panels, maybe 15 degrees out, something like that. But it's hard for me to do on both sides because I've got the curtains over here, and I'd have to have a flat one over here. So it's going to be tough. I've still got a little bit more painting to do in this room. I have to remove some furniture as well, but I might have some family staying here soon, so I'll just keep it for a little bit longer. So my project is probably, I've set 4 months for it, essentially, because I don't know the time frames of what people are going to be staying and doing and things like that. As well as building everything in, making sure everything's here. I'm not spending a lot of money. I'm going to do this pretty cheaply. Half the sound panels and things we can build ourselves, So a lot of complexities here, and this is dealing with sound. And when you're a new sound engineer, you've got to put your skills to the test and work through. So what's going to happen in this room? It is essentially a square room, slightly rectangular. So yeah, it's just a matter of really analysing what we call absorption coefficient of the walls, and that means that every surface has a specific absorption rate, and you can find out what that material that it's made out of is. It's called a coefficient, or an absorption coefficient. And now wood has an absorption coefficient. Painted wood has an even different coefficient, not much, but it does. Polished wood does. Concrete walls, again, change it again. And like I said earlier, I've got 3 different types of surfaces in this room. So I'm really going to have to think about what I'm doing. One last thing I will talk about is flutter. Now, flutter is where you get reflections, very fast moving reflections of two opposing walls, okay? Which is why a lot of engineers don't like square rooms or rectangular rooms, okay? And even if you do have those, you can change it a little bit with the right absorptive material, designed it the right way, okay? So flutter is basically when you're in a room, like if you're going to rent a room, say, and you're renting a hall, or you're in some room, you go, hoi, and there's a very, very fast reflective reverb in that room. You will hear it. It's very fast, rapid. You can probably even hear it in here. It's probably a bit hard to hear, but you can hear it while I'm talking and things like that. And it's just a sound that you don't want. You want to get rid of that. And some very basic treatments can reduce that pretty well, okay? So I'm going to leave it there for now. It's a very quick video today, just for you to think about, having a look at rooms. How would you address a room? How would you think about it? If you're working and doing DJ stuff in your room at the moment while you're mixing and just mixing in your room because it's cheap. Everyone's trying to find the cheap way to do things these days. Don't go too cheap, but you can do it right without spending too much money, okay? That's it for now. Next week we might look at exactly what all these different types of words actually mean: diffusion, absorptive material, absorptive coefficients. We'll look into some of those. Isolation, what's the difference between isolation and absorption and things like that. So that's it for now. I'm Shannon, Audio Energy. Please subscribe and I'll see you next time. Thanks.